let me ask you a question. Okay, I'm going to ask you guys a question, something. Here's my question. Without looking it up, who is David Dutch? Who is Jim Copenhaver? Who is David Dutch? Who is Jim Copenhaver? Any idea? You don't know. You don't know because I didn't know until this morning, which means more than likely you don't know. No offense, but I just mean I live in news and you have lives. You know who they are? They are the two other people who were shot in Butler, Pennsylvania, behind Donald Trump, along with Corey Compatore, who was killed. Nobody knows their name. Nobody knows those two names. And yet they were both shot along with Corey and Donald Trump, who was shot in the ear. David was shot in the chest and the liver. He also sustained broken ribs and required surgery. Jim Copenhaver, by the way, David, 57, Jim, 74, was also critically injured. He was shot in the triceps, plural, says the article I'm reading, and abdomen, according to The Guardian. We don't even know their names. So most people don't know Corey Compatore's name, who was killed, the firefighter behind Trump. That's 3. And then if you include Trump, who was shot that day in the ear, 4. That's 4 Republicans shot thanks to political violence within the past, year and a half. That was July of 24. And then came Charlie. And we know Charlie's name. We know Trump's name. Most people don't know those other 3. I'm sick of this shit. And so is everybody else on the right. And everyone else who is sane. You know, they want to hold up Charlie like he was just this one. It was just some sick kid who took Charlie down. Bull. We all watched the former president of the United States, the Republican nominee for president, get shot in the head, which is where your ear is, in the head in July of 2024. And then we quickly moved on from the fact that 3 other Republicans, MAGA supporting Republicans, were shot too that day. Why don't we ever talk about them? Truly, it's because the media memory holes anything bad that happens to Republicans. And God forbid they're shot in an act of political violence. Oh, hell yes, that's getting memory holed. And I'm sorry that we've been complicit. You know, we were all focused on Donald Trump and obviously Corey, who lost his life and his dear family. But we moved on from these poor other 2 really quickly. And I was just thinking about them this weekend because I was like, what happened with them? How are they? They're said to have recovered. I mean, I'm sure there's only so much recovering you do when you've been shot. It sounds like multiple times. But they too were victims of political violence. In an incident that the left, like literally Joy Reid, Michael Steele, who used to be the head of the RNC, on camera, openly, Keith Olbermann, speculating didn't happen. Remember? That like it was some sort of an op. Trump didn't really get shot. What did he do? Did he have like David Copperfield there, like creating fake victims, actual civilians behind Trump? Like how did he manage that? They just completely decided to forget and ignore the other 2 civilians who were killed. Sorry, 1 other civilian who was killed and 2 others in addition who were shot. So 4 people shot that day. And a year later, from the same vantage point, an unprotected roof, we lose Charlie. I mean, truly, like a year and a couple of months later. That's one of the things that's so awful about the Charlie shooting is it happened 14 months after the Trump shooting. Charlie and I spoke about the Trump shooting. We talked about the security concerns. We talked all about it. I just think about that now. If only he had known, you know, if either of us had known back then that Charlie would lose his life 14 months later. And also that video of Charlie celebrating Trump's election in November of 24, you know, which went so viral. And we talked about it on my show when he visited about he was just, you know, glory be to God. And you could see the tears in his eyes, the relief on his face, the near disbelief, you know, because it's just, he told me directly, he didn't think they would let it happen. He didn't think they'd let it happen. He really thought they'd take out Trump. He had no idea that he would be the one who would be taken out less than a year after we had that conversation. And now what we have is like a rash of growing acts of political violence, threats of political violence, and blessings of political violence by the left over and over and over. Some have asked me whether I thought Charlie's death would be like a tripwire, that set this off. Some have argued it was the murder of Brian Thompson, United Healthcare CEO, by Luigi Mangione. I mean, I think you can put it back further than that. I really think if there's a tripwire, it was what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania in July of 2024, when 4 people became the victims of an assassin's bullet motivated by politics, by hate. And we've never gotten fully to the bottom of that case. We still don't know anywhere near what we need to know about that shooter. But I mean, a man is dead. 3 others were shot, and we moved on. And then there's been a slow but steady escalation ever since. It's only been, my God, it's October. So we had July, August, September. So we've got, 16 months. That's 16 months. Trump, Corey, again, the other 2 victims whose names I don't yet have memorized, David Dutch, 57, James Jim Copenhaver, 74. And then Charlie, and what we saw this weekend was more, still more. ICE is under attack in several cities in this country. I just tweeted this out this morning. I'm going to get to ICE in detail, but let me just give you the headline. In January of 2024, do you remember this? Greg Abbott down in Texas was putting up barbed wire, razor wire, they call it, down on the U.S. side of the Rio Grande to prevent illegals from swimming across the river. They were dying. Illegals die all the time in that river. It's dangerous. And he didn't want that. He didn't want illegals making it to shore. He didn't want them not making it to shore. He wanted to create a deterrent so that they wouldn't even try. So he put up a bunch of razor wire along the Texas border by the water. And the feds sued Texas. They sued Greg Abbott, Joe Biden's feds, still January 2024. He hadn't yet passed the baton to Kamala for the race, and he was still the Democratic nominee. They went into court and they argued that immigration enforcement is uniquely the job of the feds. Under the Constitution, it is uniquely the job of the federal government. And you cannot have states interfering in how the federal government goes about enforcing the immigration laws. Now, we all rolled our eyes because what was really happening there was the feds were not enforcing immigration laws. And Texas, which had a right to defend itself from an invasion, was trying to do what it could. But they went into court in front of this same Supreme Court, which has 6 conservatives and 3 liberals. And Joe Biden won that argument, convincing the court that immigration enforcement is uniquely the job of the feds, and you cannot have the states interfering or throwing up obstacles that would make it tougher for the feds to do their jobs state to state. You got these regulations in this state, you got those regulations in that state. No. The high court said this is a federal government thing. States, stay out of it, basically. And now what do we have happening in cities across America, from Portland to Chicago to LA? You have Trump sending in ICE to go try to clean up Joe Biden's mess. Speaking of the administration that would not enforce immigration law, try to clean up that mess as the 10 to 20 million illegals he allowed into this country who have been raping and killing America's citizens, to name a few. Don't get me started on the child molestation. So Trump is trying to get these people the hell out. The drunk driving is off the charts. Trying to get them the hell out by sending ICE. It's literally their job into these cities to go get the bad guys. The worst first, Tom Homan has said. Not going after, at first, the illegals who are just here illegally, and that's their only crime. Which, by the way, it is a crime. And by the way, they should be deported. And also, there's majority support for deporting them. But Tom Homan and Trump are realistic men. They've said we're going to start worst first. So they're going after these people who have multiple felonies on their records, in addition to being here illegally. Who the hell wants to keep child molesters in this country? We don't even want ours. Never mind Venezuela's. And they're going into these cities, a couple of cities. They're going to a lot of cities, but they're having trouble in some of these blue cities because of Antifa and left-wing activists who don't want them there, who think this is like a point of pride to try to harass ICE. And we have seen in city after city, including, it's not just these, in these blue states like California or Oregon, down in Texas, we saw ICE officers getting harassed in Dallas, and that's where somebody, this man, opened fire on them. He was killed by officials, opened fire on them trying to kill ICE officers, but he was a bad shot and he wound up killing detainees. But he was trying to kill ICE officers. Did you know gold is up around 40% this year? That's not speculation, it's reality. And if a portion of your savings is not diversified into gold, you are missing the boat. Here are the facts. Inflation is still too high. The US dollar is still too weak. And the government debt is still growing. This is why central banks are flocking to gold. They're the ones driving prices up to record highs. But it's not too late to buy gold from Birch Gold Group and get in the door now. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into one in gold. You don't pay a penny out of pocket. Just text MK to 989898 and claim your free info kit. There's no obligation, just useful information. The best indicator of the future is the past, and gold has historically been a safe haven. Text MK to 989898 right now to claim your free info kit on gold. MK to 989898. Protect your future today with Birch Gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.